All right, guys, that was the AFC North. Let's move over to the NFC North. The Lions find themselves in familiar territory in the top three of the draft this year, as usual. The Bears look to try to build around Nick Foles without a first-round pick, while the Vikings and Packers have some first-round picks late in the first round. So we'll kick it off with the Lions, Jay. Who do you think they're going with at number 3?
Yeah, you know what I think the Lions are going to do? I think they're going to wind up trading all their draft picks to New England for just 7 players that they can get from Bill Belichick. I'm kidding. I don't think they're going to do that. Although Matt Patricia probably
they already have them all.
They sure did. They got a bunch of them over there. I'm looking at the interior of that offensive line. I don't think it's particularly impressive. I'm not. They're not going to use a third pick for an interior offensive line. But I'm looking at a guy maybe in a Ben Bredesen out of Michigan. I think he's a guy you might be able to come in there and. I was looking at those guards on that roster, and I don't see anything that really stood out in a positive way. So maybe help Matthew Stafford out there, get a little bit of that, keep that pocket a little bit clean for him. And then also on the other side, on the defensive line, I think there's some needs there. I understand you brought in Trey Flowers and Danny Shelton the past 2 seasons from New England, by the way. But I think there's more work to do besides those 2 fellas. If you go defensive tackle, maybe you look at Rashard Lawrence out of LSU. If you go defensive end, maybe a lesser-known guy out of Boise State and Curtis Weaver. But I think that defensive line, there's still work to do. And I think the moves they made on that defense, getting Trey Flowers and Shelton, Jamie Collins, Deron Harmon, they're doing some good things. But I think up front, they still need to be a little bit more stout. And then you can help the back end, and with that third pick, I think the popular pick is Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State. I like that pick. I really like what I saw from him last season, Ohio State, particularly in that college football semifinal against Clemson. I thought he gave a great account of himself against the likes of T. Higgins and Justin Ross. So with that in mind, corner, defensive line, and guard for the Lions.
Yeah, I'm on line with Jay for the Lions right here. The only thing I would say is I think Jeff Okudah, you need the Darius Slay replacement. Jeff Okudah, when you look at all these prospects, Jeff Okudah be the shoe-in for that, so you go ahead and replace him. And before I finish, I'm going to say this. Matt Patricia hasn't struck me as a guy that really gives a rat's ass about the offensive side. So I would not be surprised if all his early picks go on the defensive side of the ball, and then he decides, oh, maybe I should get a lineman. So with that said, I think the second pick after Jeff Okudah, I'm looking at Marlon Davidson on that defensive line. I think he'll come in, be a good stop out of Auburn. I think that would be an easy pick because I hate to beat up on Matt Patricia here, but I think he's going to go for what's easy, what's out there. And I think that'll be an easy guy out there, a guy that's relatively known, played on the national stage. We've seen what he did, top 10 in his position group. So I'm looking at Marlon Davis. And then when I go the third pick, maybe he say, all right, you know what? Finally, let me get somebody to protect this quarterback, Matt Stafford. And he go offensive lineman. And he go with the young guy, Michael Inwanui out of Michigan. He go with that offensive lineman because by the time he actually think about the offense, all the good guys, all the more known guys are going to be long gone and got the jersey on, and that spring practice are already ready to go. And then he'll finally get the first offensive lineman that probably end up falling in his lap by that time. So, yeah, I'm with Jay on this. I'm going to go cornerback, defensive tackle, offensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, if you really kind of think that the draft's going to go how we think, with Burrow going 1 and Chase Young going 2, then Okudah is definitely your guy at 3 if you think he's truly that number 1 lockdown corner. Some people think that he's maybe a little bit inflated because of the weak class. Okudah just seems like the best player, but then other people go, oh no, he's like I've read that he's as good as Jalen Ramsey, so I don't know about that, but I mean he maybe is. But you do have the option to trade down, and I think Vegas right now does favor the Lions actually to trade down as far as the odds go, more than actually taking Okudah or somebody else. I think that we always see on draft night, a team gets ready to get their quarterback, they get anxious, they wonder, oh, the guy after I'm going to pick him, and then they try to trade up. If I'm the Lions, I'm only trading up for more first-round picks. I don't want a bunch of second and third rounders. I don't think Detroit's a team that has the luxury of going, oh, we'll load up on some mid-round picks and try to get some real smart picks, because you need premium talent like you're Detroit. Like you got to get some premium talent. If Miami calls up and offers you 2 first-round picks, you do it. Otherwise, I got to take Okudah. But the wild card, I'll tell you guys, if they took Tua, or Herbert, honestly, I would not be blown away. I think that quarterback might be a bigger issue than some people think. I think they might be ready to get out from under Matt Stafford and start fresh. You got a new coaching staff that's tried it with them, and it's not really working. I'm just saying it wouldn't blow my socks off if they did. So we'll see. The Lions could be the surprise.
Yo,
of the
that
draft.
would shake the draft up, then, boy.
That would
shake
be,
it up.
That would be something else, wouldn't it? All right, so we're moving on to the Chicago Bears. Drink. They had 7 picks, 2 second-round picks, nothing in the first. So what do you got for them?
When I look at the Bears, the first thing I'm looking at, obviously offensive line. I'm in there with the offensive line. I'm looking at one Israel Cleveland out of Boise State. I'm looking at him to come and show up that whether you want to play him on guard or tackle, I'm not quite sure how they look at him. I mean, after the combine, but I do think he's a guy that can be a first day starter. You might need an injury or so, but yeah, I think he could come in and go ahead and plug a hole in. Then I'm looking at tight end. Now listen, me and Jay was talking about this earlier. I understand Jimmy Graham been added. I understand Trey Burke is on the roster, but just think about it. Just ask yourself this: when the hell was the last time Jimmy Graham did something that was worth a darn? Ask yourself this. Did you even remember Trey Burke was even on this Chicago Bears roster? You thought he was still an Eagle. So with that said, I think it would not be a far stretch for the Bears to say, yeah, we got 2 tight ends, but let's go get one that might be able to help us actually produce on the field and take us into the future. And I'm looking at a young man, Harrison Brown out of Florida Atlantic. FAU, Lane Kiffin got a couple of offensive weapons down there. He happens to be one of them. And the former coach, Lane Kiffin, I'm sorry. Right. Yes, he is the coach of Ole Miss, I know. But when he was down there, he accumulated a little talent down there, probably the best teams they had in a while and best teams they're going to have for a while. And then I'm looking at the third position is wide receiver. They definitely need somebody to put on the other Allen Robinson. Listen, I know they got the likes of Tyler Gabriel and guys like that, but listen, it's the Allen Robinson show when I'm looking at these wide receivers. These other guys, Mr. Trubisky might as well just do what he do best and look for the running back and just run and throw ducks, because if it ain't Allen Robinson bailing him out, it's pretty much a lost cause. So I'm looking at Jawan Jennings, the big body wide receiver out of Tennessee, played a lot of ball. He played all 4 years at Tennessee, a lot of SEC ball. I think he's the guy that come in with some mental toughness, help Mitch Trubisky out, go up, make those tough catches, and also allow Allen Robinson to be more the number 1 receiver that he's been without having to go run into road coverage or double coverage or however you look at it. So, yeah, man, I went offensive lineman, tight end, and wide receiver for the Chicago Bears.
For the most part, I'm with you on these. I think offensive line is a pretty significant need on the outside at the tackle positions. I'm thinking about a guy like Austin Jackson from Southern California. I think he's a guy you could look at, come in and solidify that left side. The names Charles Leno and Bobby Massey, they don't really instill a whole lot of confidence in me personally. So I would think about that if I'm Chicago. At wide receiver, I'm with you on that. Allen Robinson, I think he's a bona fide number 1 receiver, but he does need some help. And I think you need a little bit more than Anthony Miller out there. So I'm thinking about somebody brought him up earlier, but Donovan Peoples-Jones out of Michigan. I think he's a guy very highly recruited out of high school. Didn't flash all that great, but some of that could be suspect quarterback play out of Michigan. But I think he's a guy, I think he's definitely got the tools to be successful in the NFL. I think he's an NFL player, and I think he could maybe give Allen Robinson some help, maybe give Mitch Trubisky some help. Who knows? And then I think in the defensive backfield, there's some holes out there outside of Kyle Fuller and Eddie Jackson. I think they could use a little more juice out there. I think if you look at safety, maybe you look at Jalen Elliott from Notre Dame. But if you want to go the cornerback route, they got a guy in Troy Pride over there as well. So the Irish have a couple guys in that defensive backfield. And there's been some guys they've lost out there lately. There's no Prince Amukamara. There's no Bryce Callahan and Clinton Dix. I mean, they've lost some guys in that secondary. So they're going to have to fill in some of them holes to keep that defense on par with what they've been.
Yeah, when I was thinking about the Bears, what really came to mind was the fact that the trenches really, they strike me as one of those teams that they rely on their defense, and the quarterback play is going to be suspect to good at best, with Nick Foles. Even if we get the better version of Nick Foles, like he still requires a lot of help along that offensive line. So I see a lot of Jonah Jackson being mocked to them from, I believe, Ohio State, and then also Cesar Ruiz, another guy that would probably fit in really well there and would probably be available there. So what you see a lot. I think that's a good idea. Also, the defensive line, specifically the 3-4 defensive tackle spot after Akeem Hicks, it just kind of seems the cupboard seems a little barren. Even a nose tackle that I know they've been rolling with Eddie Goldman, but he's always struck me as a nice player, but not a dynamic, game-changing player, just a real solid guy. I mean, their linebacking core is fantastic, but at the actual 3-4 tackle and nose tackle spots, they seemed a little thin. But we also couldn't rule out quarterback. I think that if I'm looking at Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles on my roster, and I know I can get out from under Nick Foles next year with that contract, the way it's written, I might be thinking about a quarterback in the second round. Maybe Jake Fromm, Jacob Eason, one of these heady guys, one of these more accurate guys that just, I can kind of build a little simpler offense around. I mean, it's probably a stretch at the second pick, but you got to think about doing something about it. And you're not getting back in the first round and getting the premium guys. So I don't know. I wouldn't know if I want to go with Nick Foles and them for a whole nother season and then be thinking about it next year, then have to worry about the years after.
You paying them too much money, though. I just think you're going to get something out of them because how much money you paying them.
I'm with you in principle because Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles outside of Philadelphia is I don't know. I don't know about that. But, yeah, they need something else. But, my God, you put another guy in. That's a crowded quarterback room.
Ain't going back to Mr. Trubisky, so well, we'll see. Let's go ahead and move on to the Vikings, Jay. They got 12 picks. They have 22nd and 25th picks, as well as a second rounder. So what do you got for them?
Yeah, that's right. 12 picks. They're gonna need them too to help out Kirk Cousins. Give him a wide receiver, fresh off the top. Maybe a Jalen Reagor out of TCU, maybe a Casey Hamler out of Penn State. I'm looking at a guy maybe a little bit more explosive, opposite Adam Thielen. Maybe a guy who can stretch the field a little bit because Thielen, we got great respect for him, but I don't think he's taking the top out of too many defenses. Also, at the offensive tackle and that offensive line in general, I'm not sold on a lot of these guys. Maybe a Josh Jones out of Houston to help him out. And then, listen, the cornerback position, we've seen a mass exodus out of there with Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, and Mackenzie Alexander as well. Maybe you look at Jeff Gladney out of TCU. That's just one of the guys I'm thinking about. Minnesota, they lost a lot in free agency, but they do have a lot of picks, so they got an opportunity to fill those holes real quick.
Yeah, I'm on line with you. Wide receiver, I'm thinking just because where they pick and the fact that they got 2 first-round picks. Listen, offense sell tickets, defense win your games. And with Zimmer being a defensive player, I think what he's going to do, what kind of strikes me is, he will use those first-round picks as for the offense and then try to use his smart defensive minds to get the most bang for your buck when it comes to those defensive guys. So I'm looking at, a guy like Jordan Jefferson come off the board pretty late in the first, early in the second. I think you got to get that guy, pencil him in on the other side of Thielen and hope that eases the anxiety of Viking fans when they seen Stephon Diggs chuck up the deuce for that first-round pick. Then I'm looking at offensive guard, another one of those stalwarts, big boys from Georgia, Isaiah Wilson, come and show up that offensive line because you're going to need it because Kirk Cousins got about more – his mobility is about the same as a doggone snail. And, he ain't got no Tom Brady accuracy. He ain't got no so-and-so accuracy. So good luck with that. And, Thielen only so tall. And then with my third position, I'm going to put I went with defensive tackle because we do know Linval Joseph and a couple of other guys end up leaving. I went with Devon Hamilton out of Ohio State. I think he could come in, give you an immediate impact in the place you need. Not to say it's like, listen, they lost so much. I think I had to flip a coin to see which position because the cornerback is look, that was a good position as well. They just lost so much. I just think you would rather be able to stop the run, I guess, first and then go with the pass. I know it's a passing league, but you just hope your offense can keep you in the game good enough for you to figure it out. So, Yeah, I went with wide receiver, offense, and defense.
Yeah. And to that point about the defensive line versus the cornerback, I think because they brought in Michael Pierce to replace Linval Joseph, I think that's the reason I didn't go D-line. But point well taken, though.
Yeah, get that to me, big guys. I think, again, with the Vikings at 22 and 25, you got a good opportunity again to kind of see what comes to you and take your best guy available. But as far as a shopping list is concerned, again, defense or wide receiver, you do have that Griffin Joseph kind of hole you left. I was looking, again, more at the defensive end position, either the Gross Matos or Epinesa from Penn State and Iowa, respectively. You also need a wide receiver. T. Higgins is a guy that just kind of strikes me would be a nice playmaker from Minnesota. But you're going to just take the best available guy. And also at 25, maybe defensive back as well. Like you said, the secondary has been somewhat depleted. Damon Arnett, Okota's teammate, might be a bit of a sleeper at 25. He's kind of versatile. He can either be a slot guy in the nickel, or he can also start outside, which is something that wanes it a little bit for him. So you're going to kind of want that flexibility back. I would also say Christian Fulton would be a guy, but he probably won't be there by 22. I'd imagine he would go in the top 20. But if he were to slide, that's another possibility down there at the bottom half of the first round. All right, Drake, let's go ahead and finish up with the Green Bay Packers. They had 10 picks, including a number 30 pick. What's Big Green going to be doing?
Well, listen, the first and foremost, I kind of struggle with what I thought they would take first. So I'm going to go with my gut and say Aaron Rodgers is going to tell them, hey, can I get another guy to throw to other than Devontae Adams? Like, I mean, this one-man show ain't going to cut it for me. I need somebody else. When I look at that, I go with Denzel Mims out of Baylor. I think that would be a good guy just because they're picking 30th. Anytime you're picking with the 3 in front in the first round, the best guys in that position will be gone by that point. So, yeah, I think they'll go with Denzel Mims out of Baylor. And then with that second-round pick, I'm looking at Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan. Then, then you go back and say, all right, let's show up that offensive line. We will run the ball more. I do have confidence in these running backs, but I just like couple of more options down there. And then on my third option, I was looking at cornerback. I like the cat Jeff Gladney out of TCU. I thought in the system that the Packers are playing now, I thought that cornerback to me would be just where they would want to gamble in the third or fourth round, just a gamble with Jeff Gladney. So, yeah, I went with wide receiver, offensive tackle, and cornerback.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you at wide receiver. I think this draft and this season has got to be an emphasis on helping out Aaron Rodgers, because as he ages, he's going to need more and more help, much like we see Tom Brady at this stage needing more and more support. And you got Devontae Adams. But outside of that, I mean, we lamented the fact last year, like, could we get anybody else? Could we get a Valdez Scantling to show up for one play? Could we get a Geronimo Allison, who is out the door, as a side note? But I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State, speedster guy who can, get behind the defense. That's a big emphasis. You got Devontae Adams in the intermediate and short game. Excellent player, a little bit underrated, but needs help. It can't all be on him. And look, at tight end, this is the Packers. They're the team that lost Jimmy Graham, so there is a need at receiving tight end. I like Mercedes Lewis. I still think he's an effective blocking tight end at this stage. But maybe you look at a Bryson Hopkins out of Purdue in those mid-rounds. Maybe you can get him to help you out in the receiving game. And then defensively, I like their secondary. And you know how I feel about those outside linebackers. But I'm looking in the interior. They were a little bit lackluster against the run, and up front, outside of Kenny Clark, there's not a whole lot that I like. So maybe a guy like Neville Gallimore out of Oklahoma, get another big body in there in that 3-4 that can really stand up against the run. Wide receiver, tight end, and defensive end in that 3-4 for Green Bay.
Yeah, obviously wide receiver, same thing, just really jumped off the page. We remember last year in the playoffs. I mean, Aaron Rodgers look over, and Devontae Adams have 9 people covering him and a wet blanket on top of him. He still tried to throw it to him because he just didn't even like he didn't want to target anybody else. It was wild. So, yeah, he's going to need something at the playmaking position besides Devontae Adams. And they have a lot of big body wide receivers. You look down that list, you have Valdez Scantling, Alan Lazard, and Equanimous St. Brown. They're all like 6 axe handles tall. So I think a guy like KJ Hamler or Jalen Rager could be a nice complement complement what they already have. He would give you some help on special teams as well, but he also give you that kind of real deep threat, speedster sort of playmaking. And these are some guys, especially with Rager, I know the scouts say, well, they're kind of struggling with picking up offenses and routes a little bit, but you still have enough on that roster where you have some time to coach them up and keep their snaps limited until you can get them in that full-time starting role. But it's something you got to address. And yeah, man, I love Mercedes Lewis, one of my favorite guys, from around here. But if he's your best playmaking tight end, you probably need a better playmaking tight end. And that would be, I would imagine the Packers at 62 could probably take the first tight end off the board because most of these guys don't project to go until late second round, if not into the third round. So there'll be a run on those guys at some point. But Green Bay, they may be the team that starts it.